The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria on June 28, 1914, is widely regarded as the spark that ignited World War I. Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was visiting Sarajevo, Bosnia, with his wife, Sophie. The region was a hotbed of political tension, as nationalist movements sought independence from Austro-Hungarian rule. The assassin, Gavrilo Princip, was a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb and member of a nationalist group called the Black Hand, which sought to unite all South Slavic peoples under Serbian rule. During the visit, Princip fired 2 shots, killing both the Archduke and his wife. The assassination set off a chain reaction of events, as Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, declared war on Serbia. Russia, allied with Serbia, mobilized its forces, triggering responses from other major powers. Within weeks, the world was plunged into one of the deadliest conflicts in history. The assassination's political ramifications were vast. Austria-Hungary's ultimatum to Serbia was deliberately harsh, designed to provoke war. Serbia's rejection of one of its key terms provided the pretext for hostilities. But the real driving force behind the escalation was the complex system of alliances between European powers. The assassination exposed the fragility of European diplomacy and the danger of nationalist movements. It showed how a single event could unravel decades of careful political balancing and plunge nations into chaos. The aftermath of World War I reshaped the global order. The war led to the collapse of empires, including Austria-Hungary, and paved the way for the rise of totalitarian regimes in Europe. It also planted the seeds for World War II. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand is thus remembered not only for triggering a war, but for altering the course of the 20th century. Its legacy is a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of political violence. Mahatma Gandhi, a pivotal leader in India's struggle for independence from British rule, was assassinated on January 30, 1948, just a few months after India achieved independence. Gandhi, known for his philosophy of nonviolence, ahimsa, and civil disobedience, played a crucial role in mobilizing the Indian population against colonial rule. His campaigns, including the Salt March and Quit India movement, had brought global attention to India's fight for sovereignty. However, Gandhi's vision for a united, secular India clashed with growing religious tensions between Hindus and Muslims, which eventually led to the partition of India and Pakistan in 1947. This division caused mass displacement, violence, and a deepening rift between the two nations. Gandhi's assassin, Nathuram Godse, was a Hindu nationalist who opposed Gandhi's efforts to reconcile Hindus and Muslims in post-partition India. Godse believed that Gandhi had betrayed the Hindu cause by being too accommodating to Muslims during the partition negotiations. On the fateful day, while Gandhi was walking to a prayer meeting in New Delhi, Godse approached him and fired 3 shots at point-blank range, killing him instantly. The assassination sent shockwaves through India and the world, as it was not only an attack on a man, but on the ideals of nonviolence and unity that Gandhi represented. The political consequences of Gandhi's assassination were profound. While India had achieved independence, the country was still grappling with the aftermath of partition and the violence that had ensued. Gandhi's death left a leadership vacuum in the peace and reconciliation efforts between Hindus and Muslims, and it deepened the already existing religious divide. His assassination highlighted the fragility of India's newfound unity and the challenges it faced in creating a peaceful, secular state. Despite his death, Gandhi's legacy lived on, influencing civil rights movements worldwide, including those led by Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. The assassination of U.S. President John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963, remains one of the most shocking and debated events in American history. Kennedy, riding in an open-top motorcade through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, was shot and killed by a sniper as he waved to crowds lining the streets. The alleged assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was arrested shortly after the shooting, but he was killed 2 days later by nightclub owner Jack Ruby while in police custody. The chaotic series of events led to widespread conspiracy theories, with many questioning whether Oswald acted alone or as part of a larger plot. Kennedy's assassination had an immediate and profound impact on the United States. As the youngest elected president, Kennedy had captured the imagination of the American public with his vision of a new frontier that promised progress in civil rights, space exploration, and global diplomacy during the Cold War. His sudden death left the nation in mourning and marked a turning point in American political and social history. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in as president just hours after Kennedy's death, and he would go on to push through much of Kennedy's legislative agenda, including the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. The long-term political consequences of Kennedy's assassination are still debated today. While Johnson's presidency achieved significant progress in civil rights and social welfare, Kennedy's death also marked the beginning of an era of political distrust and skepticism in the U.S. government. The Warren Commission, tasked with investigating the assassination, concluded that Oswald acted alone, but many Americans remain unconvinced, fueling decades of speculation and distrust in official accounts. The assassination also intensified Cold War tensions, as the U.S. feared that foreign powers might have been involved. To this day, Kennedy's assassination continues to captivate historians and the public alike, symbolizing a moment when American optimism was abruptly shattered. The assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on April 4, 1968, was a devastating blow to the American civil rights movement. King, a Baptist minister and the most prominent leader in the struggle for racial equality in the United States, was shot while standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. King's assassination came at a time when he had expanded his activism beyond civil rights, speaking out against poverty and the Vietnam War, which had drawn criticism from various political factions. His killer, James Earl Ray, a convicted criminal with a history of racist views, was captured 2 months later and sentenced to 99 years in prison. However, many, including members of King's family, have questioned whether Ray acted alone, leading to decades of conspiracy theories surrounding the assassination. The impact of King's death was immediate and far-reaching. Riots erupted in over 100 cities across the United States as African Americans expressed their grief and anger over the loss of their leader. The Civil Rights Movement, which had achieved significant victories in the 1960s, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, faced a leadership void. King's assassination exposed the deep racial divisions that persisted in America despite the progress that had been made. Politically, King's death galvanized efforts to pass the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which prohibited discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of housing based on race. Yet, his assassination also marked a turning point in the movement, as it shifted from a non-violent approach to one that saw more militant expressions of Black power and self-defense. King's vision of non-violence and racial harmony remained a guiding light for future generations, but his death highlighted the ongoing struggle for equality and justice in the United States. King's assassination not only silenced one of America's most powerful voices for change, but also underscored the violence and hatred permeating the nation during that turbulent period. The assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin on November 4, 1995, was a profound turning point in the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Rabin, a decorated military leader turned politician, had taken significant steps toward peace by signing the Oslo Accords in 1993 with Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. The accords, brokered by U.S. President Bill Clinton, were aimed at achieving a two-state solution and were seen as a major breakthrough in the decades-long conflict. However, the peace process was highly controversial within Israel, and Rabin faced fierce opposition from right-wing extremists who viewed the concessions to the Palestinians as a betrayal of Israeli security and territorial claims. Rabin's assassin, Yigal Amir, was a Jewish extremist who opposed the peace accords and believed that Rabin's actions endangered the future of Israel. On the night of the assassination, Rabin was attending a peace rally in Tel Aviv when Amir approached him and fired 3 shots, killing him. The assassination shocked Israel and the world, as Rabin had been regarded as a leader capable of bringing about lasting peace in the region. The political consequences of Rabin's assassination were profound and far-reaching. In the immediate aftermath, there was a brief resurgence of support for the peace process, with many Israelis rallying in favor of continuing Rabin's efforts. However, without Rabin's leadership, the Oslo Accords began to unravel, and the peace process stalled. Rabin's successor, Shimon Peres, struggled to maintain the momentum, and subsequent Israeli governments shifted toward a more hardline approach. The assassination also deepened the divisions within Israeli society, particularly between secular and religious factions, as well as between proponents of peace and those advocating for greater security measures. Rabin's assassination remains a symbol of the fragility of peace and the deep-seated tensions that continue to divide Israeli society. The hope for a two-state solution, which seemed within reach during Rabin's tenure, was severely undermined by his death. The assassination marked a turning point, not only for Israeli-Palestinian relations, but for the broader Middle East peace efforts. In the years that followed, the peace process faltered, and violence escalated, with many viewing Rabin's death as a lost opportunity for lasting resolution. His assassination stands as a tragic reminder of how political violence can derail even the most promising efforts toward peace and reconciliation. The assassination of Julius Caesar on March 15, 44 BCE, commonly known as the Ides of March, is one of the most infamous political assassinations in history. Julius Caesar, a military general and statesman, had risen to power during the late Roman Republic through a combination of military success, political alliances, and reforms that endeared him to the Roman masses but alienated much of the Senate. By 44 BCE, he had been declared dictator for life, a title that alarmed many senators who feared Caesar sought to dismantle the Republic and establish a monarchy with himself as king. Led by senators Gaius Cassius Longinus and Marcus Junius Brutus, a group of more than 60 conspirators plotted to kill Caesar. On the fateful day, Caesar attended a Senate meeting at the theater of Pompey. As he entered, the conspirators surrounded him and stabbed him 23 times. His death, immortalized by the words "Et tu, Brute," though likely apocryphal, symbolized the betrayal by those he had considered friends. The assassination was intended to restore the Republic, but it had the opposite effect. Rather than stabilizing the political situation, Caesar's murder plunged Rome into a series of civil wars that led to the downfall of the Republic and the rise of the Roman Empire under Augustus. The assassination of Julius Caesar had profound political consequences, not just for Rome, but for the entire ancient world. It marked the end of the Roman Republic and the beginning of the imperial era, which would last for centuries. Caesar's death also highlighted the dangers of concentrated political power and the fragility of democratic institutions. The Ides of March is remembered as a pivotal moment in Roman history and a cautionary tale of political ambition and the consequences of unchecked power. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's most devastating political assassinations, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts or suggestions for future topics.